Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted to dream. Welcome to the show. I hope you're having a great day. I know I am. I am a life and business transformational success coach, #1 international best-selling author, award-winning inspirational speaker. You wouldn't know that today because I'm stammering all over the place, and humanitarian. And I love illuminating, educating, inspiring, empowering, and igniting people to find and embrace their life purpose, live their highest vision, and forge a strong foundation to source to success. Today on our show, we have Lance Cayko. He is a multi-talented entrepreneur, architect, builder, lecturer, and podcaster. He has a diverse background in architecture, construction, real estate development, and is the co-founder and partner of F9 Productions Incorporated, a wildly successful design and build firm based in Longmont, Colorado, specializing in single-family residential, multi-family residential, and small commercial projects. Welcome to the show, Lance. So happy to have you on today.
Thank you for having me here, Lori. It's a pleasure.
So fun fact, I used to work for, and you know this now, I used to work for an organization that had engineers and architects in it. So I have this like insider stalker for architecture and what you all do. So tell us a little bit about what you do as an architect and a builder. And then I have a litany of questions I can't wait to get to.
Yeah, sure thing. So the quickest and dirtiest way for me to describe what we do is we scribble on paper and we bang sticks together to make buildings in that capacity. And the fancy way is we use some highly sophisticated software. If you're in the industry, you know it as Revit architecture. We also sell a course to help other architects who are trying to level their firms up from just using AutoCAD, or even if some people are still drawing by hand, but to get into that software, because the more we help, we share and get people leveled up that way, we think the overall profession will benefit. And that's RevitRocketship.com for that course that we developed. And that's how we also teach at CU with that course as well. So yeah, half of what I do is architecture. I'm a practicing architect here in Longmont, Colorado. We started the firm in 2010, and we've survived the Great Recession. We've survived this other mini recession. Hopefully we'll survive the next one. It's been an incredible 13 years of growth for us. We started the typical garage story, except instead of starting in a garage, we actually started in my business partner's apartment, which is kitty corner to mine. We had 0 clients. We had 0 built work. And we started in the heart of the Great Recession, very hungry, starving. We did starve for the first 3 years. But since then, we have grown it into, now we have 7 practicing architects, including Alex and myself. We've won numerous awards. Most recently, we won the Best of Mile High for the best architecture firm in all of Colorado, out of the Denver metro area, for a high level of customer service. And then when I'm not designing stuff and working with all of our wonderful design clients, I'm actually out in the field building as a general contractor. I'm a Class B general contractor and a real estate developer. So we try to wear all 3 of those hats at the same time, because we think then it helps us close our feedback loop, and really everybody talks to each other in that capacity. You know, since we've become builders, for example, we've gotten some excellent feedback from the field. For example, with our electricians, they asked us one day, "Hey, can you just separate, instead of, we love your electrical plans, Lance, but can you do something as simple as just have an outlet plan and then a lighting and a switch plan?" And since then, every single electrician that has worked on a project that we've designed and we've gotten to speak with them, they're like, "You guys draw better than anybody in Colorado." So I think that gives us an advantage over other architects, because when I walk people into my office and I'm doing that first sales meeting and pitch with them, the level of confidence that we can give them that they're hiring the right design professional is top notch. And so in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing on a day to day.
So that, and a great You took away a lot of my questions. A great thing about that I see from that is you're also project managing. So you are making sure that the plans that you're designing are actually getting executed. So you're there from the thought, the seed, all the way through the completion and the build. So your delivery is there, your project management in there, and anybody would agree with me that if you don't have a good project management plan, it doesn't matter how good the plans are, it's just not going to come together the way it's supposed to. There's actually someone I know now building a house down in South Carolina, $3.2 million house, and they are so behind schedule. And it's because of the project manager isn't on top of all of the different contractors that are working on that project. And because they're not staying on top of it, we're losing days and hours and weeks at a time, which is just terrible. Why are you an architect? What brought you into this field?
Oh man, I'm 40 years old. And my journey kind of started there when I was about 13. I tried farming with my dad for one summer. I grew up in Northwest North Dakota in between a sugar beet farm and a cattle ranch. And unfortunately, I was not into farming at all. And the mosquitoes tried to, carry me off that summer. So I lasted like a week with my dad. We didn't get along well either. And he said, well, you got to do something. And, we have a family that's really believes in a strong work ethic and gaining valuable skills, some tactile skills. So you have those in life. So I said, what if I call up your best friend, Bruce? His best friend, Bruce, was a general contractor. And I called up Bruce and I said, hey, I can't do this farming thing. You got any openings? And he goes, yeah, you can be my gopher. You can go for this. You can go for that. When you're done going for the things, then you can come up on the roof and learn how to roof. And I was the best darn gopher that he ever had. And then I learned some valuable just business lessons from him because he saw some potential in me that I think he just didn't see in other people. Some of the other folks that he was, had employed for a very long time. And he told me the secret of billability and, how much he was charging clients versus what he pays me. And I finally understood how profit incentives work, the total expenses of kind of what business is, because he very quickly explained it like, if I'm charging them $25 an hour and I'm paying you $7.25 an hour, I have to pay taxes, I have to pay insurance. After I'm done paying you, I get that profit, and that profit is my lifeblood. It helps with downturns and all of that. So I worked a different trade of construction every single summer up until I was 21. I went to trade school to be basically a general contractor. That was actually my trajectory. I was thinking BGC. I was going to, just like Bruce, because Bruce showed me a way out of poverty. I grew up in a pretty low income family in a rural area. That's, there's not a lot of opportunity. And so I got to the end of my second year of tech school and I started looking at, and they were actually blueprints even back then. So this would be like 2001. But there were still people doing that kind of stuff. And I started looking at the plans. And as a person who really seeks truth in their life, I was like, well, why did the architects, I'm just curious, like, why did the architects draw it this way? Like, what informed their decisions? How do they even start? And at that point too, that was the first time I was excelling in school. I was on the dean's list every semester in tech school. And I figured out how to monetize going to school. And I thought to myself, well, I want to know more about this architecture stuff because it just seems very intriguing to me. I've suddenly loved going to school and I've monetized going to school and I have no responsibilities, meaning I didn't have a wife. I didn't have any children. I didn't have mortgage. I was debt free. And I was like, I'm going to apply to North Dakota State, 70 miles north of the tech school I went to, and try to get in the architecture program. I got accepted into the initial program, which is just freshmen, 350 students. And then it's very competitive and you get drilled down to 50. So that's what led me to architecture.
That's such a beautiful story. Where did you get this entrepreneurial mindset? I love it. As a business coach, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love to work with people like you because you have this entrepreneurial mindset, which is curiosity. It's based in curiosity. I noticed your languaging was very, hey, this was interesting. How do you do that? You started asking questions. You didn't just do what you were set to do. You did that plus you asked these questions and you were curious. Where did you get this from? Was it just innate or is it a family trait or?
Oh gosh, this is kind of there's a very deep answer and then I'll give you a shallow one first. Okay. The shallow answer I have is my favorite rapper is Kanye West, now known as Ye. And one of the lyric that sticks out to me with him is that will always live with me forever is having money isn't everything, but not having it is. And growing up in a family that didn't have a lot of money. I mean, I'm not saying we starved by any means. And I'm very thankful for us not having money because that's where a lot of it comes from is I just had this anxiety growing up about money, asking for things, basic things like shoes or clothes. It was just always like a dreadful thing to do with dad. Totally every summer. I can't believe, pants are $80 for designer Tommy Hilfiger jeans back in the day. And, that sort of thing. And I get it. I'm a dad. I have 4 children. I understand that things cost things, they cost an amount of money, but there was that part of the anxiety issue that drove me to that. And then, so as I mentioned earlier, I'm 40. When I was 33, I found my real dad. And, there's this nature versus nurture argument about everything. And I kind of think it's a combination. That's my anecdotal opinion. But when I found my dad was from Brazil. I'm half Brazilian. Yeah, I grew up in Northwest North Dakota. I had no idea. I honestly had no idea that I had this biological dad.
Right.
And he was this serial entrepreneur himself. And I'm going, is a lot of this nature then? Like, is that where part of this comes from? Because my dad who raised me, not an entrepreneur, will never be has no desire to do that and multiply themselves. My mom, the same way. Yeah. God bless them and everything. I love them. I'm so glad I'm not cursing them or anything at all. I want to honor them very much so. But I think you couple those 2 things together, and that's what drives me.
Yeah. All our success codes are inside. So whatever that means to you, but we come down here and we choose the parents that we get, right? So when we do that, it's interesting what comes out of that, because we found out through living, had you lived with him, you may not have felt that entrepreneurial spirit because you were watching him. You were living on a farm and having to be concerned asking that question. I know that asking that question thing, it's like, can I get this? I hate that. I have to ask. So I decided long ago, I was not going to rely on anybody but myself, and I would get it for myself.
You get it.
Even my first car, I got it for myself. I had help, but I got it for myself. And I took on the responsibility, and that gave me that entrepreneurial spirit. And you're unstoppable when you have that, have that mindset. That's why I'm so intrigued by you, is that you saw it. You questioned it. You had a lot of questions. You figured it out, and then you figured out how to get yourself over to college, and you figured out how to take the course, and you figured out the architectural program anywhere that I've ever heard of. Speaking to any architect is almost like going through law school, where they are trying to set you up to fail because they're trying to push you so hard. And part of it is a ritual. I went through it. Now you're going through it. I was harassed. Now I'm going to harass you. It's almost like that. And I understand the spirit of it. And I think it makes us stronger. I think it pushes us to be the best we can. And they raise that bar. And I love that you raise the bar in yourself. You could have been a GC and made a lot of money, but you decided, hey, I got the GC side. Now I want to get that architectural side. Now you have both, and look at the company that you have now. You are doing all of that. You're project managing, you're being an architect, you're drawing the plans, and you're using one of the finest products out there for architects to draw the plans, because you get all your elevations from that, and it's a beautiful program. And I love that you're teaching that to other people, amongst other things. What do you love about the building side of what you do? I understand the drawing side because you get to be creative. And I think it's magical when I walk in a building. Now, having worked with architects, I was telling you that I look like a tourist. I should have a camera around my neck because I'm always looking up and around. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. How come they put the beams there? And I start asking those questions, to myself. And then sometimes I find the architect and ask them.
Yeah. So what do I love about building? Oh gosh, I love so many things about building, and even though we have to ask for permission to build, I mean, because we're asking the government for permission, then they give us our permission slip and then we can do it. But once we get past that part, it's like freedom. I mean, it's really this, I love that it's dangerous. That might sound counterintuitive, but I love working with all of, the different trades and coordinating them, even though they drive me nuts because they'll say I'm showing up Thursday, they don't show up till Friday. I guess if I had to sum it up with one word, I think it's the challenge that drives me, that makes me want to keep doing it and keep doing it and doing it better. It is so hard to do. It is one of the hardest things to do in your life. And if you're listening to this and you're saying like, I might never do it. No. I'm even talking to you, the homeowner who might just do a kitchen remodel. It's going to be one of the hardest things you ever do in your life. Believe it or not, it's going to be financially stressful. It's going to be stressful with time. You're going to be living in a mess.
Choices.
The choices. Yeah. That's
it's like going to the Cheesecake Factory. Dear God, just point me to one page. I don't need all that choice.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what it is. It's such a challenge. And the other thing too is, and I didn't realize this until we became developers. So where I'm recording this from right now is I'm sitting in our office that we designed and built and developed ourselves. Very proud of it. It's part of a 9-unit development here in Longmont on a third of an acre. What I didn't realize until we actually sold some of the townhomes / condos to, the open market and the public and everything. And getting that experience of having those kind of customers at the very end of it, right? Because if you're an architect, you're only going to wade into the building process by just visiting the site and answering some questions. If you're a builder, you're only going to wade into the architecture side of it a little bit because you're going to be talking with the architects, the structural engineers, and all of that. If you're a developer, but like who in the triangle is going to actually talk to the customers at the end of it? It's the developer. So when we actually sold units and we got feedback from people, I don't know why it took me so long to get to this conclusion. And the conclusion is, oh my gosh, buildings are like the last things on earth that are made by hand. Like that's hard. That's really hard to do. So I think there's it's one of the last crafts. I mean, in its totality. And I really take pride in, and it's an honor to do it. And the thing I have a project foreman at F14 Productions. That's our construction company, and a carpenter. We're hiring a summer intern. But I tell all of those employees, I tell all the guys, I go, guys, we are making a positive impact in people's lives. Like they can physically see it. You might affect somebody's life in the most positive way just by building their house. Because like I have a lot of architects, friends and colleagues that are commercial architects. And I love all architects, but there is a rivalry of like, commercial architecture is more important. Residential architecture is more important. Seriously. And my argument is, you live in the house. Seems pretty important to me, guys. Like we can argue we're all important, but you can't just say how people who do custom homes or even remodels. We do a lot of remodels for like the 3% of the world, not the 1%.
Castle? Isn't that our castle, our homes?
Yeah, exactly.
Our castle. I love the fact that you have the challenge and you love the challenge and you love the journey, but there's also the reward. One of the things that always struck me, and I was just like, wow, you can't really replace this, is as I drive down the street, built it, designed it, built it, designed it, built it. You see that reward, and then seeing families grow up there. And then maybe sometimes, I don't know if you're old enough yet, but they'll sell, and then the next family grows up there. How rewarding is that?
Oh, it's so rewarding. Yeah. Especially because it is, again, back to the stress. I've designed and built my own house with my wife in 2015. So I got to experience that too. And we didn't build it physically. I wasn't even the GC. We kind of didn't have a choice. The developer / GC who built it is now one of my better friends. But being on that truly the customer side of things and knowing like, oh, we just want to get into our house, and how stressful that last 30 to 45 days is. It doesn't matter if we're building for like a business owner, that same kind of stress comes because the lease is, the time is running, all, interest, you want to get cash flow positive, yada, 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 and all, all of that stuff and under the sun. But to then get them past that finish line, man, the joy that explodes and they can see in their face is really something to behold. And again, the effect you have on people's lives is huge.
I love that it matters to you that you have this positive effect on people's lives, and that you're that you're building for the joy. You're using all the languaging that makes us so happy, that brings happiness to people, but doing something that brings you joy as well, and your team. It sounds like your team is, collectively looking at how you're positively impacting people. What's the meaning for you in the depths of your soul about that positive impact that you're creating? Why is that so important to you?
In the depths of my soul, why would that be so important to me?
Yeah.
I think everybody has an ego, obviously, right? So if part of my ego is that I think I'm going to leave a legacy, I think that's if I had to really draw it out, I think that's where it comes from, is like, look, I could die tomorrow. My wife would probably sell the house. It would be just too big for her. And then does that house live on for the next 75 years and affect people in a very positive way? Same thing with the office building we're sitting in, or any other kind of stuff that we have done. Or even if people are just looking visually at the thing and then they become inspired by it. When we teach at CU, one of the things we say is like, an epiphany we had as students, and then eventually practicing professionals and professors, was I don't even know if anybody actually invented the wheel. Like, what I'm getting at is everybody just does modifications of the wheel. Everybody just builds on top of each other. It's okay to not think that you have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So even if they're seeing my work or they're hearing my words on this podcast in the future, there's some positivity is a good thing, and putting it out there in the universe is much more fulfilling to me than actually having any kind of very awesome possessions and everything like that. It's almost hard to explain the intangible, reciprocal positive feeling I get from doing those positive things.
It's funny that you say that, because I was having a conversation with a dear friend out in Arizona, Dr. Trish. We were having this really deep conversation about something. And I said, yeah, I thought it was interesting that you had gone through this process where you reduced the amount of possessions that you had. And I said, and I just recently went through that too, and I'm going through it. And what I had discovered is I no longer had to surround myself with all these possessions, because I had surrounded myself with people that mattered. And that fulfilled me way more than all the stuff. And so, the same thing when you surround yourself with this beautiful architecture, I mean, breathtaking architecture that you sit there and you make into your own home. And that's why it takes you some time to make that new space into yours. When you make it into yours, you've just taken something that you, Lance, could have designed, developed, and built and made it your own. And that's why, for me, I will help you with your argument with your commercial people. We win because residential is now your life. It's part of how you live your life. It's part of your environment that creates the joyous life that you have. So it's a beautiful thing that you do. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. We're going to take a short break, but we're going to come back and talk more with Lance. He is amazing, amazing architect out in Colorado. And the name of your company is F9 Productions, right? F9productions.com for more information. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. If you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or non-for-profit, all you have to do is send a question or a comment to us at Healthy Lifestyle with LA at gmail.com. That's Healthy Lifestyle with LA at gmail.com. We really love to hear from you, and we answer every single email that we get, and we appreciate the comments that have been coming in. We love you too, just in case you wanted to know. Really appreciate you listening to our radio show and our podcast. We're just so grateful to have you around. In the meantime, you know this, I know this. I am a business coach and strategist, empowering, educating, and igniting people to take action with jet propulsion. I have developed a proven 3-step system that will provide a strategy, make it easy for visionary entrepreneurs like Lance to take action, although Lance takes a lot of action. We activate behavioral changes, and we show you exactly how to define who you are in order to reach your personal and professional goals. And we do this from disrupting limiting beliefs to cultivating confidence to mastering communication skills to architecting, no pun intended, actionable plans. And I work with people from taking them from confusion to clarity in their lives while aligning to their vision, perfecting their message so that they can follow their dreams. So welcome back. Today we're speaking with Lance Cayko. He is a multi-talented serial entrepreneur, architect, builder, lecturer, and podcaster. And we have been having a very just informative, fun conversation about what he does and how what he does is so important and germane. So here's a question that's always like just rubbing on me is how architects can help homeowners and business owners. How can you go about doing that? Because it's so the sage advice and the things that you tell us, there's so many choices out there. It can be mind numbing. Again, I mentioned in the first segment, it's like going to the Cheesecake Factory. There are just too many choices for me. Just limit it to 3 and I'll be able to collect that. So how do you help and empower homeowners and business owners when you design for them?
I think in a couple different ways, and I'm not sure most architects would agree with my number one idea, and that is we need to be their mediator between them and the government, because that's what in the first segment of the show we were talking, and I said, look, even though we have to ask for permission from the government to build buildings, once you get past that, it's a very free time. I mean, you kind of can do what you want, and yes, there's OSHA, all the other stuff, but so every 3 years.
So let me back up a second before you do that. Before you get into the every 3 years, there's a reliance. A lot of people don't understand why the government gets involved. There's a reliance that we have when we buy, let's just say, a 1 acre property. And in my area, when I buy a 1 acre property, I have a reliance that the government is going to make sure that the area stays 1 acre and doesn't become, I don't have a commercial building next to me. I have a reliance that if I have a property that's open, somebody's not going to build a commercial building next to me. So that's one of the many reasons they get involved. Other reasons are financial, and that's where we can get in discussions that will not be pleasant. But for the most part, it is about that we as homeowners and property owners can rely and trust that the people who are living around us are going to uphold the area that we have. So I understand that. And it's also, it's for safety purposes, because sometimes in certain states, they don't even have the codes that we have. We have in New York, I'm in New York, we have a ridiculous amount of codes. I mean, it's like ridiculous amount of codes. I think it's way over the top, but the reliance allows us to make sure that people are safe. And that's one of the things your license is dependent upon, is keeping people safe. When you build that house, that structure is going to stand, right?
Yeah, that's the theory. Exactly. I mean, that's the big pitch by the AIA, is that the licensure is all about health, safety, and welfare of the public, which makes sense. And I think going through the ritual, like you said about earlier, and about going through school, it's much the same with licensure. Part of it is ritualistic, but it's a good ritual because it makes sure that you pass the test, the knowledge, and you can sort of be this encyclopedia that can't typically recall exact stuff, but mostly the right stuff, and point you in the right direction to go dive into that code.
And the reality is when we go to college or we get a certification in something, there's a point where that certification gets vexed by actual experience. And that experience overshadows any certificate or graduation certificate that you may have, diploma that you may have. So that's where your experience comes in and you get better at it. My example is this: my brother's a doctor, neonatologist, and when he first started, he used to send his babies to all the tests. So let's just say there are 22 tests, he would put them through all 22. As he got better at it, he knew from the symptoms that he didn't need to send them to all of them. He just needed to send them to these 3 or these 5 tests. So through experience, he found his way through how to best serve his clients, which happened to be babies under 5 pounds. So, and you were saying about the architecture.
Yeah. So you're right, Lori, that the idea is, there's a planning department, there's a building department, and the idea is they're there to be safeguards and a sense of security, and sort of just like a framework baseline for that. We can argue all day long about how good or bad it is, because there's always unintended consequences
Correct.
whenever there's a new law or a new code or anything like that. But my point is, back to the 3 years, is every 3 years, I don't know, the general public I don't think knows this. Every 3 years, there's a new building code. It's just like another version. So 2015, 2018, 2021. In my opinion, like I think it would be okay if we went all the way back to the 2006 codes and then stopped. But we're not going to. I can't change that. So what do I do in that sort of system? How do I be stoic about it?
Right.
Like Marcus Aurelius was, if he was alive. And that's where the architects come in. So it is, because it's increasingly complicated, and we're not going to change it.
Right.
It's just going to keep expanding. Then the number one thing I think architects can do for their clients, doesn't matter if it's a house, doesn't matter if it's a commercial building, is help them navigate through that process.
Beautiful.
Help them understand, first of all, how long is it going to take once you hire us, the architects, for just to do our job? Second, how long is it going to take you to get through the planning and zoning and then the building department as well? So that if you're, for instance, a owner who just leased out a 2,000 square foot space, white box in a strip mall, and they want to put in a new pizza parlor in there. Okay. If you're listening to me, potential pizza owner, please get in touch with an architect almost immediately, even before you sign the lease. Why? Because that architect, especially if they're local, they're going to know how long it takes to get through that planning and zoning department, so that when you go to lease negotiations, you can be well advised to negotiate a lease that allows for that. So you're not paying for rent
while you're retrofitting the space,
while you don't even have a building permit, because
right.
You know what I mean? Because that's how long things are taking. And houses are in this category too, because in Denver right now, it takes 12, once we're done with our drawings and we submit them, it takes 12 months to get a building permit.
Way.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And then you go to a different town, like say Longmont, Colorado, where we are headquartered in, which is 30 miles north. That's about a month, 2 months. Yeah. So that's the first thing that architects can do. And then the other big one that you mentioned and we're getting towards is, we can take the average amount of decisions it takes to design, to facilitate building a house, all picking out the paint, picking out all the everything, working with the architects, all the decisions is like it's like between 2,000 and 3,000 decisions that you have to make. If you hire the right architect and the right team surrounding that, they can help just facilitate and funnel that down to a digestible amount of information for you to make quick, affordable decisions for yourself. Otherwise, if you're trying to do all of it, and I'm with you. If you are listening to this and you're in Oklahoma and you're like, I'm going to build my own house. This is America. This is the American dream. I've done it. I totally believe in that.
Do it.
But it couldn't hurt if you can afford an architect to do that, because that's the other big thing they can do for you, business-wise too.
What I'm hearing too is you're doing expectation management. You're letting the potential homeowner understand what they're getting into, and you're being honest about it. You're being forthright about it. You're not saying, listen, oh yeah, we can throw this house up in 3 months. Yeah, you probably could, but you have all these hurdles that you have to jump before you get to that point. And putting those choices, and there are like 3,000 choices, it's overwhelming. I mean, just, backboard, backsplashes. I know that one of the projects I did in my house, I took on putting in a wood floor myself, tongue and groove, rented the machine, the whole 9 yards. And I remember going through and, oh, for God's sakes, choosing the wood. What kind of wood do I want? Do I want it engineered? Do I want it complete? Do I want it oak? Do I want it pine? By the time I did that, I had to take a rest, because I was just like, oh, for God's sakes. Then you have to make the choices of what kind of finishing products do you want to use, things like that. But I have to tell you, once you do that and you start doing, it's addictive, because every time I walk to this day, every time I walk past my dining room and I see that floor, I know I did it with my own hands. I know I made all of those choices, and I'm really, really proud of it. And then I also know how much I appreciate what you do, because I would rather hire somebody now than go through all that again, because it would have been nice to have someone guiding me through it and doing that. So, at the time I had my dad, so that was good. So he was helping me with it. But knowing that a professional is out there and knowing that you're going to keep me safe. I mean, a simple thing, it seems so simple. I'm going to move this wall in my house. It could be a load bearing wall, and that could be detrimental to this to the house and the strength of the house. So having an architect is real important. Plus, what I love about you guys is you really keep the builders in alignment to make sure they're doing it the right way. You really keep all of the trades in alignment to make sure that they have the right amount of electricity in the house. It's the right box. It's not 100, it's 200 if that's what's required. Those things, those attention to details, and architects are typically very, very much control freaks and attention to detail. And you want just that. You want a pit bull, control freak, attention to detail. You got a good architect, and kindness, which definitely, clearly, I see that you are. So would you agree with my assessment on those things?
Oh yeah, your assessment of architects is spot on. I think that was great. The one thing though I will add to what I didn't note, if the listeners are, if the light bulb's going off in their head, it's like, he didn't say anything about design. Design is the default. Yeah. Like the good design is going to happen. And obviously you're going to look at, you go search Architects Colorado, you're going to look at different designs. Some are going to speak to you more. You're going to probably narrow it down to 3 architects to interview and everything. But the design is a default like that. And I mean that in the best possible way. I don't mean that as a dig. You're already going to do that. The other stuff, the other 2 big points, that's really the meat of the whole thing.
And that's where you have the least amount of knowledge and you need the most amount of guidance. And that's why I love your model, that you design it and you go all the way through the process with the build as well, because you're being held accountable. I'm a coach. I love that word. You're being held accountable from design to build. So until I get my keys to my front door, I know you're in the process and I go to speak to one person. You're giving me all of that information so I can make an informed decision as the homeowner, property owner, right? And having that continuity is so important to the process. It will take a lot of the stress/fear off. Stress and fear to me are words that are interchangeable. When we're stressed, we're fearful of something of unknown, right? And we're stressed out. That's a fear that we're coming to. With your expectation management and what your communication style is, you're helping them through that and helping them understand and acting as that go-between, that liaison between the builder, the trades, the decision making, the suppliers is basically what you're doing. It's amazing. And I can see you get such great joy from it. And why does this discipline equal freedom to you?
Both of them, architecture or building, or the whole thing?
Both of them, the whole thing, because to you, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a separate. Do you? Is it a separatism to you? Because I don't see that.
No, I think you're right. I'm okay with combining them. Yes. I like the line blurred essentially. So why I think it equals freedom is because, for instance, with the design, one of the most free type of projects there is as far as what I can do and what I can't do is when I get these special clients, and I it seems like we have 7 architects, so at least we get at least 1 per person in the firm each year. And an example of that is that, like on our website, f9productions.com, if you just look up or you just Google Eastwatch Home, it's very popular, went kind of viral after we made the cover of Builder Magazine in 2021, that was on a 10-acre site in the foothills of Colorado. If you've been to Colorado, it's very beautiful, obviously, especially when you start getting into those mountains in the foothills. And when you're on a big site like that and you're doing a single family home with a good budget, I take it so seriously, it becomes a spiritual endeavor for me, where I've got to go I've got to go up to the property with the client. I've got to do another sort of interview after they signed a contract with us. And then I'm a fishing addict and a professional fisherman. And then I usually then take the next 3 or 4 days in the mountains. And I haven't drawn anything yet. I'm just thinking about it. I'm letting it all marinate. And by the time I'm done with that 3 or 4 day stint, it is a flurry of a sketch in just a few minutes. And I've got the vision. And I'm like, that's freedom. I mean, I am creating space where there wasn't space before. Like, the walls, the roofs, the windows, the door, that's all this molding of the space. And then it's just as ethereal when you build too. I mean, you are fighting nature. You're fighting the gravity, you're fighting the wind. It's man against nature. It's like, is there anything more free than that endeavor?
I also think as an architect, you may be fighting it on one element, but you're also integrating into it. being able to morph it so that it works within the environment that it's placed in. That's, to me, that's the design element, where you're creating this beautiful structure to work with the earth so that someone can have that vision and have that space, that environment that just works with that particular owner. And I love how your process is. That's just juicy and yummy and just beautiful. That's just beautiful.
It's one of my favorite parts, for sure. I mean,
yeah.
And that's usually, and I'm serious, I like that. I do that. I don't do that for every project, because every project doesn't require that. But when we are going to be affecting a raw piece of land that has never been built on before, like it's pristine, it better be very thoughtful. It better be a serious endeavor, because exactly that point that you said of, it's not about dominating the land. It's not about dominating nature. It's about coexisting with it. Yes. And that takes thought.
Yeah. And taking that in and being honorable to the space that you're placing this structure on. Something just perked up in my head, something you said way back in the beginning of the interview. And, you have this entrepreneurial spirit to you. And, what are the fundamental keys to business success that you would want to share with our listeners?
They're so simple. It sounds too good to be true, or it almost sounds too simple, I think. But it took us a lot of complication to then be able to simplify it down to the principles.
Sure.
We have 9 principles that we live by. I won't list them all off. I'll only give you maybe the top 2 or 3 that I think every person who provides some other service or product to somebody in the business capacity should be doing. And I think we'd be a better world because of it. Okay. Even this could even go into your personal life, because I try to translate this into our personal life. So our 9 principles are on our website if anybody wants to take a look. The number one is be a good communicator. Yes. So we have a very hard and fast rule at our firm, and this is why it's my number one, I think, and this is why I think we just won the Best of Mile High, which is the best architecture firm. That is the award for the best architecture firm in the Denver metro area. Yeah. Is because we communicate so well. So the rule is, all of our staff know this, I do this, everybody does it, is if a client, if a subcontractor, if somebody we're working with, anything in a business capacity, if they reach out to us, you have to get back to them within 1 hour. Text, email, call. If you don't know the answer to what they're asking, if they're asking you a question, it's okay to just still get back to them within the 1 hour and just say, hey, I got your question. I need to look into it further. I will get back to you. And then they have to get back to them within 24 hours with a full answer.
Acknowledgement. I like that. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're paying us. It's like, you are our lifeblood clients.
Yes.
We are here to serve you. Yes. That is just so important. So it sounds so simple, but it's like, I can't tell you how many other owners have came to us because they fired another architect, and they would say exactly this. They would say, the other architect was really good at what they did, except I couldn't get a hold of them. Like, they would not return a call within a week or 2 days or whatever it was with that. And so that's how we translated that. The other big one is under promise, over deliver. Yes. Every time. Tell the frickin' truth, because people want to please people, obviously. Like I want to please people. I want to do a good job in this show for everybody, Lori. But I think people are too afraid to say no. And what I'm getting at is, if somebody says, if a new client comes to me and they say, well, when can you start? They probably want to hear tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's the truth? A week from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever it is. How long is it going to take us to get to the building department in Denver, Lance? They want to hear a month. It's going to take you 12 months, guys. And because if you lie to them, first of all, you're starting the whole relationship on a lie. That's a bad idea. Liars it's just not a good thing.
They'll catch up with you.
Yeah. But you're setting yourself up for failure throughout the whole process. Then, like, you're climbing up a mountain every single day already. Now you're climbing up a mountain with like a rock on your back. That's my best analogy for that. So those 2 big things will help you succeed immensely.
Without a doubt, I had a boss who I used to work in the government, and I answered a constituent a certain way, and I told him the truth, because my feeling is if I tell them the truth, they make decisions from this point and push forward. If I don't tell them the truth, they make the decision, they push forward based on what they tell them, and then they get pushed back even further. And that's not fair. I wouldn't want it to happen to me. So I always told them the truth. And I got yelled at by my boss saying, don't tell them the truth. They're not going to like it. They won't be happy. And I said, they're going to be less happy with us and you if I don't tell them the truth. And more importantly, out of respect, they are not going to be happy with the answer, but they're going to appreciate the honest response. And everybody who's being told, an honest response is going to appreciate it at one point or another. So I do appreciate that. I love your too. Thank you so much for being here, Lance. I'd love to have you back. So much more to talk about. Your entrepreneurial spirit is beyond. Once again, your website, f9productions.com. Please go there, see the rest of the nine principles that run your successful business, and love this time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Lori. It was an absolute pleasure. I'd love to come back on one day.
Would love to have you. Thank you again for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I hope we earned the privilege of your time. And I want to thank Lance again for coming on and having this just wonderful conversation that we had together. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until next time, I am Lorianne Casdia. Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big. Have a great day.